Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. I'm gonna pull this. Maybe that will make a little less light blockage. Okay, so we'll get started. And just before we get into the formal interview process, I always just remind people that you should pretend like you've never met me before, that you are actively seeking employment, and that this is the job you really want. Okay, so even if it's not quite with your personal preferences, just kind of you know ad lib a little bit. Okay.
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 Will do.
So obviously, like we talked about in the meeting last night, I'm not really sure how, if it were an in-person interview at this point, how handshakes would go. But acknowledging that, normally I'd shake your hand, but I'm not sure what the proper protocol is very acceptable. So okay. So well, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent, excellent. So did you was the link okay? Did everything work okay signing on?
Yeah, yes, I was able to log in easily, and I've been using a lot of Zoom meetings here lately, so I think I'm becoming a pro at this.
Yes. So how have you adapted to the online virtual? Have you had to use that a lot in your current position?
Yeah, we're doing most of our meetings by Zoom. Some of the attorneys are even doing their hearings by Zoom.
Okay.
We've done a lot of webinars with GoToMeeting.
Hmm.
So all different platforms. It's just our life now, it
Yeah.
seems.
Yeah. So have you felt disconnected from your current employer, or what ways have you taken steps to remain connected?
Well, we've actually increased the number of meetings that we have each week. Normally, we would have one meeting on Mondays for case handlers, which I participate in, and then that would be it. Support staff would have a meeting every 3 weeks, I believe. But now we're having weekly support staff meetings because the support staff are kind of the skeleton of the crew right now, keeping things going at the office while most of the case handlers are working remotely.
Okay. Okay.
So
Excellent. Excellent.
lots more meetings and emails to keep all of the cases moving forward.
Sure. Sure. So which do you have a preference? Do you like the traditional going to the office every day, face to face?
I think I will use a hybrid from here on out because I'm kind of getting a routine and working from home, and I like some of the flexibility to work late into the night if I'm really rolling on something. But then I do like coming to the office and printing. It
Yeah.
seems like there's so much printing.
Yeah.
So
Yes, I've definitely gotten a lot more creative with I not printing as much as possible. I guess that's a good thing, but oh my
yeah.
goodness, that's definitely, I agree with you. That has been one of the biggest changes and hurdles, I guess you could say. So I did look over your resume, and why don't you kind of just give me a summary of yourself? Summarize your resume or your professional background.
Yeah, so I have mostly worked in social services
Mhm.
through my career in community organizing, and I worked as a director for an adult day center. And so that was wearing all kinds of hats, but I would categorize my previous experience as social services. And then I decided to uh, get into the legal field, and I went back to school for my paralegal degree, and I will complete that in August. And I also started working for the legal aid, Land of Lincoln Legal Aid, and that really was a mesh of the two passions, I think,
Sure.
that helped me make the decision that I wanted to switch my career to the legal field from social services. And I still get the great feeling of helping people and in the knowledge of the legal world.
And am I correct? I noted on your resume that you assist a lot with like the whole expungement process, and so that's definitely a method of helping.
Yes, yes, that is the program that I am in right now.
Okay. Okay. So what has been your biggest challenge in, say, the transition to the legal field from social work?
Well, there's a lot of specific knowledge that I needed to gain, and research is completely different in the legal world than it was in social services, and the writing style is different. I actually started out in journalism, so I was an AP style person,
Okay.
and it evolved. So now my writing is a lot different than that. So I had to learn. That was one of the biggest challenges, was learning the lingo and all of the uh, different writing styles and specific laws that I need to know.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. So, what made you choose to come to South or to go to Southwestern Illinois College then? Because you work down in Carbondale, correct?
That's correct. I want to, how can I say this? My education is kind of a hobby as much of as it is a career
Mm-hmm.
path. So I wanted to continue working,
Mm-hmm.
and financially, that made the most sense. Of course, is to continue working and go part-time. The university in Carbondale only offers day classes,
Sure.
so SWIC offers evening classes and online classes, so that made sense for me. It was more economical, and I could continue working during the day.
Excellent, excellent. So, so what made you decide to transition from journalism to your previous career in social services?
uh, well, I think when I started out in journalism, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was 18 years old, and I knew that I loved to write, and I like to ask questions about the world. So that was a way that I could ask questions and learn things and be out in the community and talk to people and on the scene. And then I also learned that journalists are not as objective as we might like to think they are.
Mhm.
And so I kind of transitioned into public relations, where I could use my voice for a cause.
Mhm.
And then from there, I got more into social services. I was always specializing in nonprofit communication throughout my uh, undergrad studies at SIU Carbondale, where I studied public relations. It
Mhm.
was with an emphasis on nonprofits. I minored in government and sociology. So I knew that somewhere I wanted to be in the middle of these things, but I didn't exactly know where. So I see my career as a path that I'm, growing and learning and changing and kind of taking direction from the world around me, and where it leads me.
Sure. Okay. Excellent. So, what has been, say, your biggest challenge in your current position? What, on a day-to-day basis, is the biggest challenge?
The number of cases is the biggest challenge. When I came into the job, their position, there was a huge backlog of cases,
Okay.
and I had to work really hard and be creative and reach out for help in lots of different ways to share that work and get it caught up. And so I think that we're in a pretty good place right now. And actually, coronavirus kind of helped in slowing down the
Silver
number of
lining. Yeah.
cases.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and some of the events, the outreach events that we were going to have, unfortunately, were canceled. So I don't know how much our funders are going to like the numbers when all this is said and done, but it has decreased the number of cases.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll get like a fresh start from, to everything caught up. So, um,
Yeah.
and how about, so, I'm very familiar with the expungement process. And, I tend to know that it's a wonderful way to assist people. You definitely have a wide variety of individuals coming in with all different backgrounds and stories and personalities. So can you tell me about a time either in this, it's life in general, but either in this position or maybe your previous positions where you maybe ran into someone through professionally that, you know, was having a rough time, and um, maybe it was a difficult time and you had to kind of work them through that situation, and what you did and what the outcome was or what you learned from it.
Gosh, there have been so many times that I feel good about the work that I do, that that I have helped someone. So it's hard to pinpoint just one, but there is a client that comes to mind, and of course I won't give too many specific
Sure.
details, but I felt like we kind of gave her a makeover in her life because she came for a divorce and from an abusive husband, and we helped her get a divorce. And unfortunately, she went back to her abusive husband and continued to be in an awful situation and financially ruined, and came back for another divorce. And we helped her again. And this time we helped her to get a bankruptcy to clear her credit. We helped her to clear her record, and we helped her to get her driver's license back, which was just a mess of why it had even been taken away in the first place, and helped her get child support from her abusive husband so that she could support her 5 children. So I think about her, and she always asked for me when she would call, and I'm not sure why, except I guess I was just patient with her. And she always had problems getting her documents together, and I was always being creative in how I could help serve her. And she always had to walk or catch the bus anytime because she had no driver's license, so it was a challenge, but I felt like we helped her get her life back on track.
That's wonderful. And so in that situation and in other situations such as that, what do you think was the hallmark of success that allowed her to ask for you when she called? And what were your characteristics that you think you displayed to her?
Well, I delivered on what I promised. And when she called and would ask for things, sometimes multiple times the same documents that she might misplace or she didn't get, or something got spilled on them. So, if she needed another copy of something, I got it to her. Even after she was no longer our client and she still needed the document at the end of her bankruptcy, the certificate to show that she had discharged her debts. She needed it a couple of times since then, and she knows that I will deliver on what I promise. So I think that's why she asks for me.
Okay, excellent, excellent, good, good. Um, so where do you see yourself, say, in the next 5 years?
I want to work for a firm that is a strong team that I can learn from, and that is energizing, that is working on cases that are, setting new precedent, and, challenging the status quo, and finding new ways to help people through the legal system.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And what do you know about us that makes you want to work with us?
Well, I have an interest in bankruptcy from my experience, and so I'm very excited about that possibility to see both sides of the bankruptcy law and federal courts, because I haven't done much with that, and I would like to do more litigation support than I have been allowed to do, so that the bankruptcy part is very interesting. And the SEC requirements are new to me, and I love to learn things. And I think that there are lots of things that go on pertaining to SEC regulations that people should be more aware of. So I would love to learn about that as well.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Um, is there any particular area of the law that you really want to stay away from?
I used to say criminal law, but then I started doing expungements and I realized that it's this mesh of civil and criminal. And so, I ended up doing it anyway. I actually avoided taking a criminal law class
Really?
because I, but here I am. So I don't think that there's really any area of law that I would say I want to stay away from, but I do understand the need to specialize my skills and so I become an expert in a certain area, or at least a few, maybe a few areas. So that's what I would like to do is find a few niche areas of law that I can really dig in and become a valuable asset to the team.
Excellent, excellent. And if we called a previous employer, how do you think they would describe you?
I would say a very loyal, reliable, and positive. I never left a mess for anyone to clean up whenever I went from one job to another one. I've always given full notice and communicated with my employers that my reasons for wanting to change jobs, and helped to transition in any way possible, helping to even recommend replacements for my positions. So I think that they would say great things about me as an employee.
Okay, excellent. Now, I always ask a kind of a two-part question. So, um, and you kind of answered this already, but I'll just ask it. Um, you know that most time people come seeking legal advice when something's wrong in their life. I mean, there's very, very few areas of the law that people just stop by to say hi. So rightfully so, part of your job would be to be the face of the firm, doing intake interviews, communicating, a lot of communication with clients. And, you know, like I said, a lot of times they're coming to the firm for assistance during a very traumatic time in their life. And with that being said, sometimes the stress can be high. How would you handle a situation if a client came into the office and, you know, right or wrong, you're probably the first person they're going to see, their main contact, and say they are rude to you?
That does happen quite frequently, unfortunately, because they are stressed and they're confused. It's there's so much jargon and they don't know what's going to happen, and they're frightened that they're going to lose everything, or their children, or their home, or there's someone's going to take their paycheck, or already has. And so now they're at a point where they're desperate because they have no money and no phone, or no way to even access the internet. So uh, I have to be the calm person and remember my tone, especially, and try to ask questions to get information so that I can understand their question, because they a lot of times don't even know where to begin with
Sure.
asking for help. So stay calm, listen, ask questions to clarify, and then try to provide them with some kind of lead. If it's not something that I can help them with, at least to give them another resource, a person to turn to, another community group that might be able to help. And not promise anything, but to give them a glimmer of hope, and then just say, you're not the only one that's went through this, and it will be okay.
Excellent, excellent. And kind of part two of that question is, because you will have such an interactive relationship with each individual, and you're going to know a lot about their personal life. How would you handle a situation where, a client would say, Nicolette, what should I do now?
Gosh, that happens a lot with a rent because people want to know if they have to pay their rent. And all I can say, it's very hard, and sometimes I have to say it over and over again for them to understand that I cannot tell them whether or not they should pay their rent. That's a decision that they're going to have to make based on their situation.
Mhm.
And so, it sometimes I feel like I'm a broken record whenever I'm in those situations, because it's tempting to say, this, but you can't. So
Sure. Yeah.
just have to say it and be firm that that's all I'm going to give you.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So from your resume, I can see you have done very well. And obviously you've done well professionally, you've done well in your education. What advice would you give to, say, a new paralegal student or a student in general? What are some of the keys to success that you think are necessary?
Proofreading would be the first thing that is so important, because like inevitably you're going to have corrections, but if you pay attention to detail, listen to instructions carefully, don't get too excited about your assignment that you stop listening, and take notes, because at the time it may all make sense, but then when you get back to your desk, you're like, oh my gosh, what did they tell me to do? So, listen carefully, take good notes, and proofread everything before you give it to the attorney. That will save you some red ink and time later having to go back and make those corrections when you're trying to get something else done.
Excellent, excellent. Boy, I couldn't agree more. And even when you're proofreading and you're reading it, sometimes you're looking at it and you're like, I know this looks wrong, but I can't figure out why. So it's amazing. It's excellent, excellent. Well, do you have any questions for me?
Well, I am interested in what kind of training you would provide. I noticed in the job posting that it did say training is a possibility.
Mhm.
So do you have a plan that you in place for training, or is that something that you would assess as needed?
Yeah, so the initial, what we call ramping up period, when you join the firm, you would have a mentor. So a paralegal that has been here much longer, more senior, and it would be their responsibility. They would be kind of your go-to person for questions about, really anything day to day, et cetera, et cetera. Once that initial mentoring period it, expires, I guess you could, that mentor is still probably going to be there always. And everybody in the office is willing to help, but it's nice to have that one person that knows this is one of their jobs. In addition to that, we do uh, bring in a lot of speakers on different areas of law to do in-house CLEs so that our attorneys it's more convenient there. And especially if it's an area, I mean, we encourage you to attend as many as your workload permits. However, we would really specifically encourage you to attend, especially the areas in which you practice or work. We also encourage um, membership in different organizations like the ALA or NALA, Association of Legal Assistants, the Gateway chapter. They have monthly luncheons where they'll bring in a speaker on, I mean, the topics are wide, from how to dress in the courtroom to the Lilly Ledbetter, Equal Employment Act. So they're, once a month educational networking, but also just very good informational things. So we try to match up with somebody in the firm for how the office functions, and then through scheduled events, try to allow for opportunities to increase your knowledge in different areas. And I would say, in addition to that, if there was something that came up that, another uh, association or another type of webinar or something that you wanted to attend, then you just have to, talk to the office manager and see if that would work into the budget and the schedule.
That sounds good. I like the idea of a mentor, and it sounds like you value ongoing training. So that is a good thing.
Yes.
Can you tell me about the history of the position? Has it been vacant for long? Is it a new position?
Sure. So we're actually going to be having two positions. One is a new position. It's a growth position. The caseload, the way we had the paralegals assigned to different attorneys, the caseload has just been growing at a rate that proportionality of or ratioing of paralegal to attorney, we need a new position. So that's a growth position. The other position, the person that occupied the position previously went on maternity leave and decided she didn't want to come back. So it is a replacement position. She had been here about 6 years before she went on maternity leave. So.
Okay. How soon do you think that you'll make a decision in your hiring process?
Sure. So we are conducting interviews through the end of this week. I would say on Friday, we're going to meet as a committee and just kind of discuss the potential candidates. I would say, I would expect by Friday for everybody to be notified of what the next step is. It may be, you know, we want to have a callback interview, or it may be that maybe that person isn't the right fit, or it may be, you know, a job offer if it's just the perfect fit for the position. So, but by Friday, you should know something. I'd say Friday afternoon.
Well, that sounds like a pretty quick turnaround. You must have a lot of interviews.
Yes, yes, we're going to be busy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
well,
I really,
oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, and I we understand people are anxiously awaiting, you know, would like to know, so definitely. So.
Well, I'm definitely interested in the position, and I thank you for taking time to speak with me today about it.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate time talking to you, and you know, I look forward to talking with you more.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you. Okay, have a great day.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You did a great job, Nicolette. You did.
Thank you.
And let me see. I'm going to stop.